Hey guys, how's it going? Happy Sunday. The market's about to open in a couple hours. I'm just gonna get all the links sent out through our social media so we can get everybody on here. If you guys are new here, basically what I do during the weekly chart analysis is basically I go down each of our pairs on our watch list. And what I do is I clear off all of our zones and I'll redraw all these zones here so you guys have an edge in the market so you guys can see exactly where price is likely to reject from. So as you can see right here, we marked this up from last week. And you can see how much price generally respects these zones. So you can see right here, price goes from this zone to this zone to this zone to this zone. And basically, like if you're taking a buy position, if you get close to this upper zone, odds are you probably want to exit this trade or move your stop loss and profit, because generally what happens is price goes from zone to zone. So from up here, it bounced from this zone to this zone right here. If you were taking a sell, you probably want to move your stop loss and profit here, because it ends up bouncing around pretty much from zone to zone. Like it'll go from zone to consolidation to the next zone and literally just bouncing around. So the thing is, if you know where these zones are, you guys will have an edge when taking your trade. So say right here, if you were taking a buy because you're expecting this to maybe retrace up a little bit, obviously if you're taking a buy, you probably would want to get out of this trade before it gets to this point, or at least move your stop loss and profit. Because what might happen here is if it comes up, it's probably going to reject right off it and come straight back down. But yeah, we'll get to that in a bit, guys. So I'm just going to send out the links through our social media so that everyone can get in on this webinar. But if you guys have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat on the YouTube. I'm not sure if anyone's on the Zoom. No, so no one's on the Zoom. Everyone's here on the YouTube. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to just put them in the chat. And as soon as we get started, we can start to kick off our weekly chart analysis. But give me 1 second, guys. I'm just going to put this on the Instagram real quick, and then we can get started. I'm going to take a screenshot of this because I can't find the picture. Let's see. All right, let me add the link to here. All right, perfect, guys. So it looks like I have everything set up. Looks like people are still coming in, so I'll give it a few minutes. But just to reiterate what I just discussed earlier, so basically what we do for the weekly chart analysis is I'll redraw all these zones here for this new week, and I'll go down each of these pairs that we have on our watch list. If you guys have a specific pair you want me to analyze, basically to give you guys my analysis as to how it'll move during the week, feel free to, put your questions in the chat. And I can analyze any pair that you guys like, whether it's Forex, whether it's indices, whether it's gold, silver, oil, Bitcoin, anything. So literally, if you guys want me to analyze anything, just put it in the chat. And then as we go down the list, I can focus more on the specific pairs that you guys want me to take time on so that you guys can have a better understanding as to how to, plan out your moves for the week. But all right, cool. All right, so we have one person that wants UCAD. So we'll get to UCAD a little later because it's like way down here. What I do is I go down the list so that if you guys want to go back and rewatch this webinar during the week, this is going to be replayed on YouTube. So basically, we'll go down the list so that if you want to go and rewind, you can rewind to, one of the earlier pairs. If you guys want to fast forward to the later pairs, it'll be easier for you guys to find each specific pair that we've analyzed in order. So I'll go over UCAD. I'll go over CAD-JPY too. I saw both of the questions. But I'll be a little quick on these because I know some of these pairs, a lot of people don't really trade, like odd CAD, odd CHF, not so much. So we're going to go through these pretty quickly. And then the more popular pairs, like the major pairs, odd JPY, AU, let's see, EJ, EU, GU, GJ, NU, NCAD, NJ, UC, UJ, and a couple of the other ones down here. I think the indices as well. So yeah, I see the two questions there for UCAD and CAD JPY. I'll definitely take some time once we get to those pairs. But like I mentioned, I'm going to go in order. So if you guys want to go back and rewatch this webinar later in the week, just to get those zones again, we can do that. But all right, guys, so it looks like we have enough people in the room, so let's get started. I'm going to start off with OddCAD right here. This is one entry that we had last week. I'm not sure if I called it. Let's see. I don't think I called this one. I think it was during news. Yeah, so the last OddCAD we had was actually last month on the 25th. So I called this on the 24th, and then it hit TP1 and TP2 right there. So we haven't called an OddCAD position in a while. Maybe there'll be an entry this week. But let's get started. So I'm going to start off with OddCAD right here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to first take everything off the chart. And basically how I start off is I turn on the K² SR version 2 indicator right here. And then as you can see, it draws all of these zones on the chart for us. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to open my rectangle tool right here. And I'm going to draw my own zones on the chart so that it'll be a bit of a cleaner look versus having all these lines on the chart. So if these zones overlap like they do right here, you can see that the zones are pretty close by. So instead of drawing multiple zones, I'm just going to draw one big zone so that we can avoid that specific area. And once I take off the indicator, I'll show you guys exactly what I mean by these zones that I just discussed earlier. So let's just draw these zones here. Right down here. Right over here and down here. So we don't have a lower zone here on the 4-hour time frame. So when this happens, I just go on the higher time frame, like the 8-hour, and then I draw a lower zone down here so that I can see where the floor is. So we're on the 4-hour here. Let's go on the 8-hour. Nothing there as well. So we'll go on the higher time frame, the daily, and you can see that the zone's way down here. So this gives us a lot of cushion for us to trade before we get close to any sort of support. So we'll go back to the 4-hour here. And then I'll take off the indicator, and there you go. So we have all of these zones lined up on the chart for us, and you can see that it makes it a lot easier to determine, which direction to trade. So you can see this lower zone that I drew down here. This is a very strong zone. It's been tested way back in April of this year. So that's been months ago. So as you can see right here, once price gets like below this point, because it looks like it's in a downtrend right here, it's pretty clear. One way to determine the trend is to use the K² pivots indicator. You can see it's in a strong trend downwards, right? Super easy to follow that. So obviously we're going to have some sell biases here. And on top of this, we'll turn on the K² momentum indicator. And you can see that we have a very nice drop right here. So just by looking at this right here, we had a sell signal right here indicating a momentum swing downward. So since we have this, plus the trend is heading down, odds are price is probably going to go down pretty far, unless there's something in the news that causes it to go the opposite direction. It looks like the Australian dollar is very weak right now. And that's because they're in an economic depression. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the news last month when they announced that they're in a recession right now, and they haven't been in a recession about over 20 years. So, obviously they're going to be hurting a lot. So it looks like this is probably going to come down from here, way down here. And the last time it tested this area was back in April. So it might not be a straight flush down. It might have some retracements. It'll come down a little bit maybe, and then maybe retrace back up and then come back down further. But overall, it looks like it's in a pretty strong downtrend. So if I take all this stuff off, see, this is probably what's going to happen here. So basically, if we're going to be taking any trades, it looks like any of the Aussie pairs right here are going to be pretty much all sells for the most part. And we took all those sells last week too. So if you guys are familiar with, if you guys have been part of the group, like pretty much all month. So I did post all of the results down here. And you can see that all of our trades from this week, so all the Aussie pairs right here that were sells, odd CHF, odd JPY, odd USD, another odd USD right now, it's currently active. They all hit full TP. We hit TP for 40 pips, 45 pips, 65 pips, 90 pips, and they all hit straight full TP. So that's a strong indicator showing that, it's probably going to continue in that direction for this week. But we'll just have to wait and see. The market opens up in about an hour and a half. So once that happens, we can determine whether price is going to continue downwards, because we do have a sell bias right here with the momentum coming down. Until we get a buy signal like this right here, maybe it might come up a little bit and then it might drop again further. So when that happens, we're going to be ready to basically take that trade, because we don't have any zones coming up anytime soon. You can see that down here. Dang, the zone's pretty far out. So let's see. Okay, so the zone is way down here, guys. So let me just take this off. If you count how many pips is from this point to this point, it's got a long way down, about 275 pips. So this is going to provide a lot of room for us to take, sell positions to pretty much just ride this down. So hopefully this week we'll take some sells for the Aussie pairs. But we'll just have to wait and see, because we have to wait and see what happens when the market reopens, because obviously there's going to be some stabilization. So this might even shoot up way up here, and then it might reject off this zone and come crashing down. So, we're not going to be too jittery, and we're not going to want to try to hop on trades too early, because obviously once the market reopens, not all of the markets are open yet. It's just the Aussie session and the Asia session. So we're probably not going to see too much movement until we get to the London session at midnight. And then, the market won't be in full swing until tomorrow, New York session, when all sessions are open. Let's see, Harry said, thoughts on KJPY dropping back to earth? Yeah, Harry. So we'll take a look at that in a little bit too. So like I mentioned, we're going to go down this list. And two people have asked. So Harry, you asked, MDB asked as well for KJPY. We actually still have this active right here. So, we're all anticipating this to drop. I'm hoping it drops too, because I still have this active as well. But once I go down the list, we'll stop at KJPY, and we'll take some time on that specific pair. But yeah, back to odd CAD over here. So just going to give you guys the parameters for these zones if you guys don't have the indicator. So this upper zone right here is going to be at 0.9391, and this lower zone down here is going to be at 0.9060. So those are the two parameters right there to look out for. That'd be your resistance and that'd be your support. And there we are with odd CAD. So we're going to go over to the next one now. Odd CHF right here. This actually hit full TP, so I'm going to delete this this alert for a stop loss, because obviously we already won that trade. So that looks good right there. I'm going to delete everything off the chart. And there we go. We have a naked chart right there. I'm going to turn on the K2SR indicator and go back to drawing our zones. So over here, we could draw two separate zones, but price is way down here. So these upper zones are kind of irrelevant. So I'm just going to draw these as pretty much full zones. And, if price ends up coming back up, we can go ahead and change that. But currently it's kind of irrelevant for us to really focus up here when price is way down here. And that's why I'm just making these big zones, because we can always make adjustments during the week. So similar to odd CAD, there is no lower zone. So I'm going to go on the higher time frame, the 8 hour. There's no zone there. Go on the daily. And there's our zone right there. So let's go back to the 4 hour, and I'll take off the K2SR indicator. And there you go. We have some nicely drawn zones right here. So you can see here that price respects these zones pretty nicely. See, we drew these zones today right here, but these zones have been tested way back in May, the same exact price point. See this same exact zone right here? This is where price currently is. It's just repeating history. So in June, it was in the same price zone right here, currently where we are right now. And then again, back in May. So May, June, and then now again in October. This is a long time, but you can see that it tests the same exact area. So let's turn on the K2 momentum indicator to determine our bias. So right here, same situation with odd CAD. You can see that it has a sell bias because we have a sell signal right here. And you can see price comes down, and whenever it breaks down to a new zone, like right here, broke through this zone, it came right back down here, and then it broke through this zone right here. So now it's consolidating a little bit, but we still have a sell bias right here. So what I anticipate happening is price coming back down and testing this zone. So if we go back to over here, from when price tested it, so it's tested it a ton of times. Look at how strong this support is. It tested it in February. It tested it near March, again in May, in June, and then again in October. So you can see right here, the last time it tested it, it came right below it. And then what happened? Just like I said right here, once it reaches the zone, it could either break through it and come down further, or it can reject right off it and shoot right back up like it did right here, right? So there's a ton of different scenarios. You guys have to remember to analyze it in all directions. You can't just analyze it as a sell, even though it has a sell bias, because obviously, you know, it's in a strong downtrend. Because this doesn't indicate that it's going to for sure come down further. You know, one of two things can happen. It can come down and reject off it, or it can come down and break right through it and drop into a free fall. But we won't know that until price actually gets to that point. So once price gets to this point and tests this zone, then we can wait for price to either break below it and we can take a sell down here, or we can wait for a buy signal and have it reject off this zone right here and shoot back up, and then we can take a buy. But you can see right here, I just went over our trades from last week. So last Monday, we took a sell for odd CHF for 40 pips, full TP. You know, odds are if all of the AUD pairs are coming down, this is probably going to come down further, especially like I mentioned earlier that we're in a, well, not us, but the Aussie is in a recession right now. You know, odds are they're not going to get out of the recession by this week. They just went into that recession. So it's probably going to keep dropping even further. So if that happens and then, you know, the value of the Australian dollar doesn't go up, it's just going to keep dropping further. And, you know, it's our job to catch those moves. So if price comes down and breaks below this zone right here, just like it did right here, because we did take this trade up here and we caught this for about 40 pips, you know, like somewhere around there. So if it comes down and breaks this zone again right here, we're going to take a sell and do the same exact thing we did last week and hit full TP. But yeah, currently right now, there's no, you know, the market's still closed, so there's no volatility, there's no price movement. But if you guys want to keep this in mind, the upper zone right here is going to be 0.64935. And this lower zone down here is going to be 0.64492. So price can either consolidate within the zone, or it can break above it, or it can break below it. But the thing is, we're going to wait for some confirmation before we enter this trade, because, you know, we only want to take trades that we're almost 100% sure they're going to go in our direction. Let's see. FIFA Sloth said, oh man, every time I see the Jones name, FIFA Sloth, since it broke through the second, so it broke through the second time it tested a couple months ago, I could see it breaking through. That's if history does repeat itself. Yeah, I agree with that, Dejan. So, you know, looking right here, and this is one reason why I wouldn't enter right away, because you can see right here it broke it, but then it kind of faked people out. So this is why we wait for the extra confirmation, because we don't want to take a sell and then it ends up reversing on us hard, because this happens all the time. You know, there was probably news this day. I don't know what happened. This is June, actually. So this is probably when they started. I know there's a lot of COVID news happening during this time. I don't know if they went into the second lockdown around this time, and that's probably why it spiked up. But yeah, looking over here, you can see price try to break it, came back down, and then it just consolidated before shooting up. But yeah, like we mentioned, you know, if history repeats itself like it did right here back in February, see, this is the same exact zone we drew today, but way back in February. So if price breaks below it, look at this huge drop that could happen right here. It's a lot of profits to be made right here. Look at 700 pips. That's crazy. Like, how does that even happen? I mean, this was because of COVID, but still, this is a huge drop. And, you know, this happened because the Swiss franc is a safe haven currency. So when COVID happened in February, you know, all the money went into safe haven currencies like the CHF and the JPY. That's why a lot of them gained in strength. And then as, you know, the currency started to recover, it came back up. But the thing is, a lot of countries are going back into lockdown. You know, I think Canada's going back into lockdown. Some European countries going back into lockdown. So if that happens, you know, money's going to go back into safe haven currencies like CHF, and then it's just going to compile because the Aussie is in recession, the Swiss franc's a safe haven currency, and then, you know, throw COVID into the mix. obviously the Swiss franc's going to gain in strength. So I mean, we'll see and we'll figure out what happens. But there's not, we're not really going to know until it breaks the zone. Like I wouldn't enter a sell right here because, like I mentioned, it can literally go up. But if it breaks below the zone right here, then we can take a short and ride this thing down. Let's see. Thomas said, do you have a history of your system transactions? Yeah, I mean, we'll have a history of all the trades I've taken, but there's, so I'll just show you. If you have, this is free access to you guys. So if you guys want to see every trade that we've taken like this year, just go to our website, sign up for the free access. And then once you have access to it, you'll have access to this page right here. So if you have, go to this page over here, scroll down to the bottom, and then it'll have the K² trades results in history. So these are pretty much all of the trades that I've called live. So whoever's been part of K² since, you know, August 2018, all the trades here have been called live and they've been posted in the premium signals group. So if you go here July, you know, we're probably like 2 months delayed because the thing is we have to wait for all of the results for like that specific month to be done before we can post them up. So the most recent month is July. You know, obviously the next one's going to be August, September, and then it's just going to continue on. I think we've already posted September. I just haven't put it on here yet, but everything's been on the Instagram. So if you go on the Instagram as well, let's see, K² Trades, Instagram.com. So if you go on Instagram, we've actually covered up until August. I just haven't updated it on the website yet, but all of the August results have been posted here as well. But if you go to the website and you click here, it has everything broken down. So it has it doesn't have every single trade that's appeared because obviously I can't be up 24/7 and take every single trade. And I'm still picky with my trades because I go, you know, more quality over quantity. So if you go here, all the July trades have been posted: week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5. Same with the indices right here. And then more detailed into the weeks and then more detailed per exact trade. So if you go down here, it shows, you know, on Monday, June 29th, these are the trades we had, parameters, profit loss, profit target. So, you know, we lost 71 pips here, we won 60 pips here, lost 62 pips here, 157 pips here. And if you want to go back and retest, you know, all of these trades, feel free. You guys are more than welcome. So this is all of July. We go to June. Everything's broken down there as well. Literally everything's here. So if you want to go and check them yourself, go ahead. All the parameters are there. So if you have access to the K² indicators, you'll know what I'm talking about because you'll see that all the strategies will line up with these trades here. So if you want to go and do that, you know, feel free, but I'm not going to go and go over everything because there's a ton of trades that we've taken. You know, how many trades have we taken this year? So we've taken, right, so our current 2020 Forex totals, we've taken about nearly 600 trades. So you can go back and look at all those trades there. Same with indices. We've had about, from May until today, we've had about 80 trades. So if you want to go back and take a look, feel free. And if you want to look at the strategies, you know, all the strategies are covered here too. So basically all the trades that I've called from April until now would be using the K² SR zone trading strategy. So this is what I've been using since since April. I've only been using this strategy and it's been traded on the 4-hour time frame. Generally, we usually use the official intraday strategy, but me personally, I just like to trade on the 4-hour now. So I don't like to be on the chart all day and sending out trades randomly, you know, on the 30-minute time frame. So now I have a set schedule when I send out trades and they're going to be using this specific strategy. And if you guys want me to go over any trades that we've taken, I can break it down for you and show you exactly how I identify that entry because these are the same strategies that everyone else is using. So everyone's pretty much identifying the same things that I'm seeing on the chart. You know, nothing's hidden. Everything's pretty much taught to you guys. But if you guys want me to go over anything specific, feel free to let me know and I can go over that as well. Let's see. MDB said, so it's a good trade for OddCAD. MD, so going back to OddCAD, sorry, let me just go back to, yeah, I gave the parameters for OddCAD. odd CHF already. So let me just go back to odd CAD real quick. So MDB, yeah. So for this, I wouldn't just enter a trade just because, just because there's no support that's way down here. You'd have to wait for an actual entry. So I'm not sure if you're using the K2 strategies, but if I turn on the momentum indicator, so technically this would have been the entry right here. Let's see if it's filled yet. So if you guys are not familiar with the K2SR zone trading strategy, I'll just put it here, K2SR zone trading strategy, 4-hour time frame. So first you're going to identify a break and close past K2SR level or K2SR zone. And then next confirm direction of momentum using the K2 momentum indicator. And then after that, you can enter on the open of the following candle. So check this out. This would have been the entry right here because you need to identify break and close past the K2SR zone, right? So right here was the K2SR zone. You can see price break past it and close below it, right? So then this would be the entry right here because the second confirmation is to confirm the direction of momentum using the K2 momentum indicator. So right here we have a sell signal. So this is going to signify a momentum swing downwards. So both requirements have been met. You can enter on the open of the following candle. So right here would have been the entry. We put the stop loss at the previous swing, which would be right here for about 52 pips, right? So we'll just round that down, 52 pips. And right here, you can see that this entry already hit full TP. So MDB, I wouldn't enter this right now because this trade is technically done. And this is what I was discussing earlier. So what I see happening here is, price can probably retrace back and it might come up and test the zone again. So if it comes up and closes within the zone, then it comes back down and closes down here like it did over here, like where it broke and closed below the zone, then I would take a sell entry right here. Because the thing is, even though there's no nearby support here, like I mentioned right here, it can retrace, right? So if you enter right here, just, at random, because you're like, okay, there's a huge support zone down there, price can come up and stop you out before it comes back down. So, it's a game of patience. You have to just wait for an actual entry because technically there's no entry right now since this already hit full TP on this one over here. So let's just just be patient, wait for it to come back down. But this is what I see happening right here. Like we don't want to, yeah, DeJohn said technically it's in a box right now because right now it's finished out of this trade. So it's probably going to go sideways until it, figures out its direction. Or say we get say we get a buy signal like this right here, right? Since price is trending downwards, like it's in a strong downtrend, it's pretty clear the downtrend that it's in. So right here, we could get a buy signal in the opposite direction, and then it'll just push it up slightly because it's just like a retracement pullback. And then once you get another sell signal like this right here, we can take that sell and pretty much ride that down for a smooth full TP. But yeah, so that's odd CAD right there. I would just hang out for a bit and wait for the market to move because when the market opens in about an hour, it's probably going to spike around. There's going to be gaps because the weekend just reopened. And we would just pretty much wait for something to actually appear. Yeah, exactly. DeJohn said until it breaks that top wick or bottom candle right here, because it is coming up right here. So basically if it comes back down, because what's happening here is it's establishing a lower low. So it came down right here, established a lower low, came up here, lower high, and then probably right here, another lower low. So it's probably going to come back up, lower high, and then come back down like a staircase. But it does look good so far. I mean, I would just wait for it though. All right, cool. So we looked at odd CAD. Let's see. Okay, Godson said hello about Euro NZD. All right, so I'm going to take my time on UCAD, CAD JPY, Euro NZD, and EU. Yeah, guys. So I see all of your questions there. I'm going to go through and take my time on those specific ones, but I'm going to keep going down the list so that we cover pretty much everything. If you guys want to go back and rewind or fast forward to each specific pair, you guys can go ahead and do that. but I'm just going to go in order so that we know exactly when and where, where I was discussing in analyzing each chart. Let's see. Thomas said, do you have a trial for your system? Yeah, Thomas. So if you go on our website, just go to k2trades.com, scroll down to the bottom, all the way to the bottom. And then we have our trial right here. Normally it's $150 a month, but for your first month, it's only $50. So for $50, you get all of the access to all of these videos here. Plus you have access to the K2 indicators, all of them. You'll have access to the K2 momentum indicator, the K2 SR indicator, version 2, the pivots, and the K2 trend meter down here as well. So you'll have access to all of that. And then you'll have access to all of the K2 premium groups. So right here, we have the K2 premium signals channel. This is where I post every single trade I take. So every trade that I send in here, and they look like this. This is what the signals look like. So here's like US 30. I'm telling people to buy right here. And then here's our FTMO parameters. And if we hit TP, I have my updates here. Full TP right there. And then I post my profits as well. So you guys can see that I'm taking these trades with you guys. Like I'm not just sending out signals. I'm actually taking these on my own account so that you guys can trust that, these are legit signals, because I'm not going to, I'm not just going to call some random trades, guys. I'm calling the trades that I'm actually taking on my own account. So I have skin in the game, just like you guys. Whenever I post a trade up, literally I'm taking all these trades with you guys. So you can see right here, pretty much all the signals I send out, you'll have updates like NC right here. And then you can see that we're hitting TPs right here. And there's updates for pretty much all trades that we have. See, there's the same NC right there that I called. NZD CHF right here, sell stop, give you guys the chart. And then right here, full TP, same chart. But yeah, that's pretty much what you'll have access to. You'll have access to pretty much everything if you sign up for this one right here. And then if you change your mind and don't want to keep subscribing, you can cancel anytime. There's no requirements that you stay subscribed for an X amount of time. You can cancel at any time you like. But okay, so let's keep going. All right, so let me keep going down the list. So we've gone over OddCAD, we've gone over OddCHF. Now we're at OddJPY. So I'm gonna go delete everything off here and then turn on the K2 SR indicator and then draw my zones up here. All right, so I'm gonna speed through this a little bit because I know nobody asked about this pair. So I don't wanna waste too much time on pairs that people don't really care about right now. Because if you guys are familiar, I still have these webinars throughout the week too. So I have this every Tuesday and Thursday as well. So we're gonna go through these again. This isn't the only day we're gonna go over these pairs. I'm gonna go and scan through all these throughout the week, and then we'll see how everything revolves within time, because obviously, anything could happen during this week. One thing I gotta check too is news. Let's see the news for this week. So we have Chinese news at 7 p.m. today. That's my time. That's in about 6 hours, or 7 hours actually. The Fed is speaking on Monday. So it looks like there's a bit of news every day during US session. So that might affect our US 30 entries, but we'll try to make some ways around it. Looks like there's some heavy Euro news on Friday. Thursday, there's US news in the morning, unemployment claims. But we'll take it day by day. We're not gonna look into like 3-4 days into the week, and we're not even looking at trades at that point. But here's a quick overview of the news for this week. So there's not too much today, just Chinese news at 7. So we'll probably be taking trades tonight. But tomorrow morning, it looks like we're not going to take any trades or we might take trades during the middle of the US session, but there is high impact news from 5 until 7 a.m. So until the Fed's done speaking, we'll take trades maybe at 10, but nothing early morning. And then in the afternoon, we have Aussie news too on Monday. So let me keep going down the list. Randall said there's premium signals. Yeah, Randall. So if you just want to have this access to the signals, you can just go to the website, and on the top right here, you'll see where it says K2 premium signal. So if you don't want access to the indicators or the strategies, you can just click on this right here, and then it'll pull up the page for the premium signals right here. So if you just want access to all of my trades, you can copy all my trades. You can sign up right here as well. Natish said, Euro odd. Yeah, so we'll take some time on Euro odd as well as I keep going down. Ricardo said, hi, I have a question. I have IQ option broker and I don't have US 30 and other indices stocks. Which broker should I use? So Ricardo, I've never used IQ option. I only use Forex.com for my Forex trades. And then I use Hugo's Way for my personal US 30 trades. So I don't ever recommend using an offshore broker, but I use it myself. So if you want to use it, it's safe. I just can't recommend it because I don't recommend anything that I don't fully trust, but I do use it myself. So if you want to use Hugo's Way, feel free. That's probably the easiest other option for you. Unless if your account's kind of small, you can use like CoinX or you can use, let me see if I can find it here. So I use Forex.com. I'm just going to open the website here, but you can also use Hugo's Way. And there's a couple other brokers that other people in the group use, but I haven't personally used them. So I can't give you like a recommendation to use them because I haven't used them myself. But here are the options. So let me pull this up on the page right here. So I personally use Forex.com. However, since it's a US regulated broker, leverage is really low. So you kind of need some money to trade on this broker. This is probably the safest broker. This is the only one that I'll recommend to you. But you can't trade, only some people can trade indices on here. So depending if you're located in the US clients can't trade indices on Forex.com. You'd have to use a second broker. So this is what I use for my personal trading, Hugo's Way. And then for my big account, I use FTMO for you guys that are familiar with that. And then people with smaller accounts use CoinX and FX Choice. So if you want to check these out, I can't recommend any of these three because I don't recommend offshore brokers or unregulated brokers, but this is the only one that I can recommend for Forex. I use this, so you can use it too, but I'm not going to give a recommendation to use, obviously an offshore broker because obviously they can't be trusted 100% because they're unregulated. All right, no problem, guys. So let me keep going down the list. And so we're back on OddJPY. So Dejan said, doesn't AJ move like OddCHF? Kind of, but OddJPY moves a little faster because the thing is, basically any pair that's matched with the with the JPY, it'll move like very quickly because there's such a huge difference between the cost of each asset. So this is so one Aussie versus the JPY would be 74 cents to $1. Kind of similar to OddCHF. However, OddCHF is a little cheaper. It's like $1 to 64 cents. Or actually, no, this is a little more. So you can see that they're kind of similar, but you can see that the JPY actually moves a lot faster, but they are pretty similar. So you see that they move pretty similarly, but I think the worth for OddCHF is more versus for the OddJPY. But I mean, me personally, I would prefer to just trade JPY versus CHF because it moves a lot smoother than the other pair. But let's go ahead and draw the zones here. So I'm going to delete everything, zoom out, turn on the K2SR indicator, and then we can draw our zones right here. All right, so we got those zones set up over there. This lower zone right here, and the lower zone right here. So I'm gonna take off the indicator and then zoom out. And you guys can see here that this zone has been tested back in September, also way back over here in July. And then it kind of had some issues around this area back in June. So June, July, September, and then again here during this month. So I think once it gets down to this point, this is going to be a very critical support zone. So if it comes down to here, let's see where the momentum is going right now. So right here, we actually have a buy momentum candle. So what I see happening here is when the market reopens, I probably see this coming up and retesting this zone right here. And then depending on, I'm assuming the COVID news, because, you know, if the COVID news is bad, because I think Australia is going through a second lockdown or third lockdown or something like that. So if there's some bad COVID news, it's probably going to push up a little bit, and then it's going to come crashing down pretty heavy. And this price range right here is pretty big. I mean, it's not super big, it's 90 pips, but you know, anything close to 100, I think would be a nice big drop. So what I see happening here is I probably see this coming up to this point and then testing the zone and then coming straight back down. But you know, we're not going to predict what's going to happen. We're going to wait for it to actually happen. So we're probably going to wait for price to come up to this point, and then we'll see what happens. If price comes up and breaks above it, maybe it'll come up a little further, and then it could come down from here, or if it comes down from this point, it could come down from here as well. So instead of us guessing, you know, what direction price is going to go, we're going to wait for some sort of confirmation, like some sort of entry, and then we'll take that trade. But me personally, I wouldn't ride this up from here because this is only about, it's like 30 pips. So maybe if you're trying to scalp a little move there, you can do that. But I think it's too risky because you're still going to have to cover the spread. And the spread's probably going to be about maybe like 3 to 7 pips, depending on your broker. So it's just going to be a little risky to be taking a trade like this, especially when the market reopens, because it's going to probably bounce around all crazy. It's going to come up, then it's going to come down, then it's going to come back up. And then maybe once it gets to this point, it'll probably come right back down. But I think it'd be more crucial once we get to this point right here, because once price gets to this point and it breaks below it, we can probably expect a free fall. Because look, check this out. So price broke below this point over here, same exact area where we currently are. And once it broke from this point, it dropped like 120 pips. And then look, it came back up and then it broke below it again right here. It dropped another 100 pips. And then it came back up again right here, broke below, and then dropped like 50 pips. So this is going to be a critical support zone right here. And I'll give you guys those parameters right now. So that's something that you guys can look out for, because this, I think once it breaks the zone right here, you can see it drop pretty heavy. So this upper zone right here is going to be 74.941. And this lower zone down here is going to be 74.027. So what I always recommend, you know, guys, just be patient. You know, don't just try to enter a sell because you think it's going to come down from this point, and don't even put a sell limit right here, because this is what happens. A lot of people want to put a sell limit right here, and then, you know, the market makers know that a lot of people are waiting for this rejection right here, right? So what's going to happen is your stop loss is going to be somewhere around here, and they're going to just push price up here, and they're going to make you think it's going to come down, and they're going to drop down like a little bit. And then they're going to be like, gotcha, boom, stop loss. And then once you get stopped out, it's going to come straight back down. So be patient, guys, and don't hop into trades without having an actual entry. I know it's tempting because, you know, this looks like a great drop right here. It looks like, you know, if you look at this point, it's rejected off this point a ton of times. So like, don't fall for that trap. Just wait for some sort of confirmation before you enter any trades. Because I know a lot of people what a lot of people like to do, like counter trend traders, they want to go and predict where the rejection is going to be. So the thing is, we have an idea that price is going to reject off this point, but thing is, price can reject off up here, down here, it can even reject from up here. So until we get that confirmation, I wouldn't just enter a trade just because. But you guys have the parameters for ODJPY right there, and we're going to move on to the next one. Okay, so odd NZD right here. Delete everything off this point. Turn on the K2SR indicator. And let's draw these zones. Got one right there. You got one right here. Another one right here. Another one down here. So it's kind of hard when they overlap like this, guys. So this is really subjective. It really depends on how you want to draw these zones. However, as long as you cover all zones, you'll be perfectly fine because you'll know exactly where not to trade and where to trade. So right here, we have no lower zone. I'm going to go on the higher time frame, the 8-hour. And then we have lower zone down here. So we'll go back to the 4-hour now. Turn off the indicator. And here we go. So right here, this upper zone is going to be at 1.07173. This lower zone down here is going to be at 1.06838. And our momentum bias is down right here. So same situation with, the other trades that I sent out to you guys. Literally when price came down here, this was a break-in close past this K2SR level. We had a sell momentum right here. This would be a short entry straight to full TP. Again, price broke down here. So technically this would still be an active trade. And then again, right here, price broke this zone right here. So this would technically be an active trade as well. So we do have a sell bias here. However, I'd wait for price to reopen because it's probably going to come up a little bit and then reject off that point, head back down. But we can't be for sure yet. So like I mentioned, once market reopens in about less than an hour, don't enter trades right away, guys. So wait for price to stabilize because the spread's still going to be super wide. And I probably wouldn't enter until maybe later tonight once price is, figured out its direction. But yeah, that's odd NZD right there. See, Shawn said, been 5 seconds and it already looks like Ian's gonna fall into an abyss. I agree, bro. So like, check this out. I think, here, let me go back and zoom out of here. So if you guys check out this over here too, this same exact price zone has been tested in September. It's been tested in July. It's been tested in June. It's been tested in May, April. It's literally been tested again last year. See, November. This is a strong zone where we currently are. You guys can see that I just drew these zones right now, but the same exact price points have been tested back in September of last year, October of last year. It's like repeating history. So check this out. We're October 18, right? So October 18 of last year, it was in the same exact price point, guys. So, it's probably going to do the same thing. It's going to go and reject off the zone, come up, reject off the zone, and then either shoot straight up or shoot straight down. Like how Dejan said right here, it's going to fall into straight into abyss. Like right here, check out this drop, guys. Once price broke this point, this thing dropped, damn, like 400 pips. That's crazy. Like imagine if you caught this whole move right here. It's just history repeating itself. Damn, look how it dropped even farther right here. So it dropped from this point way down here for damn, almost 700 pips, guys. That's crazy. So if you check this out over here, if this drops to that point again, I'm sure John's got his finger ready on that sell. He's probably going to try to catch this way down here, which could probably happen. Price might come up and test this zone right here first. Come up right here, test that zone, and then come crashing down. But like I said, we'd wait for that confirmation before we jump into something like this, because this isn't guaranteed to happen. Price could come up and then it could just shoot straight back up like it did in the past as well. But that's why we wait for the confirmation before we enter those trades. Let's see, Dejan said, the only issues I'm having is the election, because regardless, that's going to affect damn near all players. Yeah, no, I agree. So it's a weird year we live in right now because it's an election year. So, and elections are coming within a month. So that could affect the market heavily, because depending on who's president, that could really push price in one direction or the other, depending on the policies that are going to be passed once we get a new president. So, these are the parameters for odd NZD. I'm not sure if I gave them out yet, but this upper zone is going to be 1.07179, and this lower zone is going to be 1.06840. So let's move on to the next one, odd USD. This is a trade that we technically have active right now from last week. It's still active. It's like around entry. But let me go ahead and draw these zones. So what I'm going to do is instead of drawing the zones from scratch, I'm going to make sure that the zones aren't the same from last week. So let me just hide this right here. You can see as I take my rectangles off, they line up with these zones. So these zones haven't really changed from last week. So you can see right here, everything lines up perfectly. And in this situation right here, we don't really need to go and make too many changes, because I know it just ends up taking a lot of time to redraw the zones. But you guys have seen, if you guys need to redraw the zones, super simple. But you can see right here, I just made that small adjustment. So this zone right here actually got smaller. This is where it was last week, but then we just made it smaller down here. And that's pretty much it. So for this upper zone right here, upper zone is going to be 0.70964, and this lower zone down here is going to be 0.70173. And technically it's still active, so we still have a sell bias right here. You know, price might just come crashing down when market reopens. So if you guys are still in this trade, I'm still in the trade with you guys. Yeah, I'm still in this trade with you guys because it never hit TP1. So I'm still in that with you guys, and it still looks fine. So we'll wait and see how that reacts once the market reopens. Here, I'm gonna go down the list real quick just to make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay, so the first pair that we're gonna really focus on is gonna be CAD/JPY. So I'm gonna keep going down. And then once we get to that, that's after this one. So I'm gonna do the same thing with this pair right here. I'm just gonna, instead of redrawing the zones, I'm just going to turn on the indicator and then see how they line up with price currently. So we have this upper zone up here that's not there anymore. We'll delete that. But right here, you can see that this zone kind of got a little bigger, right? Same with this zone right here. Kind of got a little bigger right there. And then these lower zones down here, pretty much the same thing. Actually, no. So here, let me just redo these because these zones are actually different. So let's go and draw this right here. Draw this right here. Yeah, so if the zones are a lot different from where they were last week, we can just go and redraw them. You can see I did this in a few seconds. It doesn't take that long. And we have all the zones lined up again right here. CAD/CHF is a bit of a messy pair. You can see that it literally ranges. It bounces off the zone, then just ranges sideways. So currently right here, it's within these two zones. This upper zone right here is going to be 0.69421. And this lower zone right here is going to be 0.69285. So right here, momentum is heading upwards. So it headed up right here. We probably might get a sell signal right here, and it's probably going to come back down and test this zone right here. But like I said, this pair generally ranges. So it's probably going to keep bouncing around until it breaks out here or down here to, you know, to continue a drop up downwards or push upwards. So we'll just hold off on that. This is a bit of a messy pair. I don't really trade this pair at all, but I still go over it just for you guys. Okay, so now we got to CAD/JPY here. So this is one that we have active currently. I know a lot of people had a scare when it shot up like that, but I think it's going to come back down. It looks like the JPY pairs are a little stronger due to the COVID news. So I'm going to go and turn on the indicator real quick, make sure all of our zones lined up. So you can see right there, as I turn them on and turn them back off, the zones are still in the same exact areas that they were set up last week. So yeah, we don't have to make any changes with the zones because the zones are the same. But we'll just analyze this to see where we see this going. So right here, we do have a buy signal. However, price hasn't broken above this zone. So until price breaks above this zone, odds are it's probably going to reject off this zone, come back down, and we get another sell signal like we did right here. And then if it closes below here, we can see a nice drop back into profit. So we'll just have to wait and see how this reacts when the market reopens, because obviously price is probably going to either gap up or gap down. Odds are it's probably going to gap down, but we'll have to wait and see what happens when the market reopens. But yeah, there's not too much to really analyze for CAD/JPY because it's still stuck within the zone right here. So until it breaks above the zone, then we can anticipate a bullish move as it continues to push up and test this next zone over here. It'll hit our stop loss at that point, but it hasn't hit our stop loss yet. So if you guys are still in the trade, we still have hope that it's going to reject off this zone right here and come crashing back down to our profit targets. So that's it for CAD/JPY. I'll reanalyze this later. So guys, I'm probably just going to go over the I'm gonna touch on everything very lightly now, and I'll probably come back on like once the market's actually open, and then we'll just have like a live trading room probably around like 6 p.m. or 8 p.m. so that we can actually analyze this as the market's open. Right now, it's kind of hard to analyze because the market's closed. There's no volatility, there's no movement. But once we have, some sort of direction, so if this comes up, it opens up and then it's down here, then we can analyze that further for it to come straight back down. However, it's hard right now because the market's not open yet. So we can't really analyze it as if it's actually open. Let's see. Sandeep said, is it a good idea to enter CJ now for sell entry? No, I wouldn't enter right now because this was already retraced up. Plus we had a buy momentum signal right here. So I wouldn't enter a sell until we have a sell signal. So if we have a sell signal that appears right here and it closed below the zone, then you could enter it. But I wouldn't enter right now because you're literally just gambling at that point. Yeah, so we'll hang tight, and I'll probably come back on a little later, and then we can analyze this when the charts actually open. But okay, so let's move on to the next one. There's not much to look at there. CHF JPY. Let's see if these zones over here have changed from last week. No, they look exactly the same. So looking at the zones here, same exact zones. The upper zone right here is going to be 115.367. And this lower zone down here is going to be 114.199. So I'm not really going to analyze it at this point because like I mentioned, the market isn't open. So the thing is, I don't want to give you guys some sort of direction, even though we have, a buy signal right here, because the thing is when market reopens, it can gap down and then have a sell signal immediately. And then this could probably come straight down. So there's like really no point in analyzing the market right now. The main thing to do is just to have these zones on the chart so you guys can see exactly where price might reject from. So right here, if price pushes up a little bit, might reject off this point and come right back down. Or it can break above it and continue up further and test this zone or test this zone right here. But like I mentioned, it's kind of hard to really analyze it completely with the market still closed at this time, because a lot of things could have happened over the weekend where price could have spiked, way down here, like price will reopen, price is already down here, or price could have spiked up and then price is like way up here already. So I'm just going to draw these zones for you guys so you guys can see exactly, where the rejection points are. But we'll go into this a little further into the week, maybe again tonight, if you guys want me to hop back on for a deeper analysis once the markets reopen. So this is CHF JPY. We'll go to Euro Odd. I think someone asked for EA, right? Let's see. Yeah, so Nitesh said Euro Odd. So I'm going to take some time on this one right here. Let's see if the zones look good. So let me hide these here. It's like this zone got a little tighter. Looks like we have another zone right here. It's like this one got a little wider. And I think everything else looks, move this closer right here. Yeah, everything else looks fine, guys. So like all the zones are pretty much the same for the most part from last week. So I'm just going to give you guys the upper zone right here. This upper zone is going to be 1.65737, and this lower zone right here is going to be 1.65365. So looking at the momentum, we have a buy momentum right here. So price shot up right here, provided for an entry right here because price broke and closed above this K2SR zone. And then we had a buy momentum going this direction. So if you enter that buy here, I think I sent that out last week as well. Let's see, did I send that out? Euro Odd. No, so I didn't call this trade. I think there was probably news during that time, so I didn't call this one. But if you did take it, it would have been profit right here for about 93 pips. Again, right here, price broke above this zone. So as it broke above this zone right here, provided for another buy entry. However, I didn't call this buy entry right here because price was too close to this upper zone right here. However, if price closes above it, so right here, if price closes above it right here, then we can anticipate another push upwards to full TP for this specific position. So same thing applies here as with the previous entry over here. Once price closed above it, we had a buy signal right here. We would have anticipated a bullish move upwards. Same situation right here, price broke above it. so it can continue up even further. So I do have a buy bias for Euro odd, but I probably wouldn't enter this trade until it closes above this zone. So price, like I mentioned, see price came up, tested the zone, rejected, came back down, tested the zone right here. And then what odds are it's probably going to retest the zone again and break above it and continue to shoot upwards. So this is probably what I see happening. But like I mentioned, it's too early to really analyze it that deeply. We're just going to have to wait for some extra confirmation as price starts to move when the market reopens in about 30 minutes. So let's keep going down further for Euro CAD. So I don't think we have any questions for Euro CAD. So I'm just going to confirm the zones are the same. So we're going to have this lower zone down here. Yeah, so all the zones are pretty much the same from last week. I'm just going to turn this off and I'll give you guys the parameter. So this upper zone right here is going to be 1.54704. And this lower zone right here is going to be 1.54373. And then we can turn on the momentum indicator, and momentum is coming down right here. However, we wouldn't have taken this trade because it's so close to the zone right here. It's only about 8 pips. Spread for Euro CAD's about 10, 12 pips sometimes. So you wouldn't even cover the spread after you would have entered. You would have entered for a loss down here, which is why we wouldn't have taken this trade just yet. If price closes below this zone though, right here, then we can take a sell position from that point. But until price closes below the zone, we're not really going to pay too much attention to Euro CAD at this specific time. Let's move on to the next one, Euro CHF. Let me see if the zones line up with last week. So these upper zones right here line up perfectly. So not much has changed up there. However, this lower zone right here, I don't think we have this here. So I'm going to go on the higher time frames and confirm that those zones are proper. Nothing on the 8-hour down there. And then we do have some right here for the daily. So that's why we drew this zone right here. And also why we drew this zone down here. This is kind of relevant. I'll delete this one. Or actually, I'll leave it there for now. But let's go back on the 4-hour. Yeah, you guys can see that this is kind of a messy pair. So this is kind of like why we don't really trade Euro CHF as much, because they kind of move in the same direction. You can see that they literally just range majority of the time until they break into a new zone. So for you guys, if you guys are looking at this pair, this upper zone right here is going to be 1.07219, and this lower zone down here is going to be 1.07098. Let's move on to the next one, EG. Let me just go through the chat real quick. I want to make sure nobody asked about any other pairs before I continue further down. Okay, so the next pair that we're going to focus on is EN for Godson. So we'll look at EN, and then we will also look at UCAD. So those are the two main pairs that we're going to be focusing on as we continue down further. But yeah, so I'm not going to go too much in detail with these pairs. Like I mentioned, the market hasn't opened yet, so we don't know exactly what's going to happen for this week. I'm just helping you guys out with these zones so that you guys can have an upper hand and edge in the market when analyzing the charts for the week. But I'm going to try to get back on a little later today so that we can analyze the charts with the market actually open. So let's draw these zones right here. And EG is a messy pair. This is one of the pairs that I really don't like to trade because it literally bounces around so much where it's kind of hard to really predict where price is going to go. So looking right here, you can see that there's a ton of zones. Like these zones they're clean zones, but they're big zones. So it's kind of hard for you to trade within these areas because there's not enough space. Like right here, we can't even trade within this area because it's only about 20 pips. The spread for EG is probably like 3 to 7 pips. So going in and out of this trade, you barely make any profit while covering that spread. So looking at this upper zone right here for EG, it's going to be 0.90839. And this lower zone down here is going to be 0.90633. So I probably wouldn't even call any trades for this until it breaks below here. So if it breaks down here, then yeah, we can take a short position and ride this down. However, if it breaks above here, which is a long way from where it currently is, then I would probably take a buy up there, or maybe even from right here. However, at where price currently is, there's just not enough space for you to really take a trade, because the thing is, you don't want to enter a buy. As soon as you enter a buy, it comes down from here. You don't want to enter a sell as well. It comes down here and then it just rejects from this point. So I'd be careful with EG. It's just a risky trade, a risky pair to trade, unless you have some sort of extra edge telling you that, you know, it's going to continue down. All right, EJ right here. Make sure the zones are the same. Yeah, Dejan said it's in a slight downtrend. So maybe, yeah, because it seems like all of the euro pairs are actually heading downwards. So it looks like the euro is actually pretty weak. So I'll just zoom through these real quick. You can see that we have a bearish candle there. Your CAD, it's also coming down. Your CHF, it's coming down as well. Same for EG. Well, EG right here, it's stuck within the zone. So if they all come down in the same direction, they have a similar correlation. However, we won't really know until the market reopens, because it might have gapped up. Something good might have happened that strengthened the euro over the weekend. So we can't be 100% sure until we actually see what happens when the market reopens. So let's see if these zones line up here. Turn this off. Yeah, it looks like all the zones are pretty much the same right here. So I'm gonna turn off the indicator. All right, this upper zone right here is gonna be 124.187. And this lower zone down here is gonna be 123.313. So those are just the zones right now. Like I mentioned, I'm going to come back on like in a couple hours, maybe later tonight, when the market's actually open, so we can have a better understanding as to, you know, where it's going to move to. Because right now it's kind of hard to really determine, because we're not sure if market's going to reopen and price is going to be up here, or market's going to open and price is going to be down here. So, you know, you don't want to get too overly eager, like too overly eager before the market is actually open, because you don't want to analyze for a sell and price is way up here and you're like, crap, I just like wasted all my time analyzing that sell when it's going to be a buy. So we'll give that some time, and then once we determine, then we'll go ahead and take a look even further. But here's one question, EN. Someone asked for this earlier, so I'll just mark this up from scratch. Turn on the K2SR indicator. Zoom out from here, and let's draw these zones. All right, so we got those zones right there. This zone right here. All right, so we got all those zones lined up. Turn off the indicator. Looking at EN right here, this upper zone is going to be 1.77968. This lower zone right here is going to be 1.77299. Let's turn on the momentum indicator. It looks like last week it closed on a sell right here. So if price closes below the zone, then it would provide for an entry right here. And we could probably ride this for about 77 pips, it looks like. And it looks perfect. So see, check this out. If price closed below here, we could pretty much ride this down and then hit full TP before it either rejects back up or breaks below, and we could take another sell right there and ride it even down further. So EN definitely has a sell bias right here. However, like I mentioned, the market isn't open yet, so we're not sure if this is going to gap below it or gap above it. It's just really going to depend on where price ends up. Angel said, how do you identify the zones without the indicator? So, I mean, there's a ton of different ways to identify the zones. What you can do if you want to just do it by scratch is you can use the pivots high-low indicator right here. And you can draw your own zones from where price pivots from. However, it's not going to be as accurate because there's a ton of different zones here. So, you know, you're not going to have the accuracies having the actual K2SR zones out for you, because there's a ton of different zones here where you can incorrectly identify these zones. So it's really up to you, Angel. If you want to do it yourself, you can do that. You can just use, you can either use the pivots high-low indicator to identify where the pivots happen, or you can just draw your own zones from scratch. If you want to go in, here, let me show you. I don't want to mess with my chart. So I'm going to go over here and create another one. I mean, your zones aren't going to be as accurate as mine, because obviously you can't, you know, the computer knows exactly where these zones have tested, and that's how I created my algorithm. So, you know, if you want to do it the hard way and not be 100%, you can do that. But I can't guarantee that you're going to have the proper points, because, you know, if you don't know how to draw your own zones, you're not going to learn overnight. So you're going to have to practice and figure out where you want to put the zones, because, you know, my algorithm goes back far in data. So you can see these zones have been tested way back here. Like it's literally, it does the work for you, which you can do on your own, but you have to have your own skill to draw these zones like without, you know, my indicator, because these zones can be anywhere. You know, if you want to draw your own support resistance, like you can draw your own zones up here where it's tested. And this is something that a lot of people have issues with. You know, a lot of people can't identify proper support and resistance zones, because the thing is, it's so subjective. What I see with my eyes is totally different what you see with your eyes, because I've been trading for 10 years now. So you know, looking at the charts for me, you know, it's like, it's simple for me to just look at the chart and draw my own zones. But if you don't know how to draw the zones on your own, you know, you're going to have a lot of trouble, because there's a lot of zones here that you can draw. If you're drawing this from scratch, or if you want to use the pivots high-low indicator, you can still draw your own zones from these pivots. However, they're not going to be as accurate as if you have the computer draw the zones for you, because, you know, you can't compete with the computer. Like, the computer knows the exact data points. You know, your eyes and the computer's eyes there's no comparison. Like, check this out. If you drew this on your own, the zones look fine, but they don't look like this. Like, they don't look like how they were drawn with the actual indicator. So you can see these zones right here. Compare these zones to these zones right here. They're close, but they're not as accurate. So you can see we kind of missed one right there. So there's a big zone right here. These were breaking into two zones. We have these lower zones right here, but it looks like the zone size were different from the actual indicator versus drawing your own zones. I mean, you could keep practicing and get better at it, but this is something that takes a lot of time for you to actually master. So you can see I drew these zones here, but they're not as accurate as these right here. Like, it took into this point down here and into these areas right here. However, for here, these zones aren't as thick. They could have been thicker up to here, but as you can see, you know, you can't really be 100% unless you're able to look at all of this data on your own. Angel said, sorry, what are pivots? So pivots are where price, I mean, it's kind of hard. Pivots are like, basically if price comes up and then it pivots from that point, that's what a pivot is. Price pivots from this point, that's a pivot. I don't know how to really explain it, because it's kind of a common sense term, where, like, say if you're going upwards and then it pivots back down, like this is a pivot. So price comes up and then it pivots. It comes down, pivots upwards. It comes up there, pivots downwards. So I don't know how else to explain. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying, Angel. I don't want to like explain it more and confuse you, but pivots are just areas where price pivots from. Like, I'm trying to find another word that's similar to pivots, but I don't know if you kind of get what I'm saying. Price comes up and then pivots. So it just turns, like, it goes up, then turns the opposite direction. I guess that's what you could consider a pivot, if it just turns opposite direction, goes down, goes opposite, goes opposite, goes opposite. No, it's not. Well, I mean, you could consider it support resistance, but pivots and support resistance are different. Because resistance just means that it rejects off that point. A pivot's like where it actually gets to a specific price point and then it goes directly off it. I'm not sure if you're getting it. It's because it's kind of a common sense thing. Like if, you know, price pivots from this. So say price comes down and then 1.76446, that exact price point, it pivots in the opposite direction. A support resistance is just like price can come and test this, you know, support resistance zone. However, it's not these two pivots are different. They're not at the same exact price point. I don't know if you get what I'm saying, Angel, but I'm going to keep moving on because we don't have much time right now. Market's going to open in about 20 minutes. So if you want to get on a one-on-one session, Angel, just let me know. I can probably help you out better that way. But pivots and support resistance, they're kind of similar, but they're not exactly the same. And it seems like you're kind of having trouble with drawing your own zones. So you probably would be better off just having the K² draw the zones for you, because you're probably going to be drawing zones in the wrong places. And this would be good practice for you, because if you actually learn by having this little help for you, you'll be able to identify these zones for you, like on your own. Because if you're following where the computer actually plots them on the chart for you, you'll actually know where to look for instead of you guessing. Because a lot of people just guess where support resistance is or where the zones are, and they pick the completely wrong places. So yeah, it's like reversals. So price pretty much goes from this point and then reverses, goes up to this point, reverses, this point, reverses. Those are what pivots are. But for support resistance zones, which is the zones that are created right here, you can see that price generally retests those areas, you know, a couple times. Like it tests it, that same exact price point, X amount of times before it rejects off it. It doesn't just test it and then comes right off it. It tests it multiple times before either breaking below it or rejecting up and going the opposite direction. But yeah, so looking at EN right here, the zones, let's see. So I drew these here already. So these zones right here, I don't know if I mentioned earlier, but the upper zone right here is going to be 1.7797. And then this lower zone down here is going to be 1.77286. So this would be EN. And yeah, actually we already went over this. Sorry guys. So reiterating what I just said earlier. So basically we have a sell signal right here, but we would have to wait for the market to reopen before we determine, you know, which direction to take if we'd end up wanting to enter this trade. So I'm going to zoom through these real quick because we don't really have much time right now until the market opens. I want to make sure you guys have all the zones before the market opens, and then we'll give it some time before we actually go and analyze it a little deeper, because we have to let the market stabilize a bit before we can enter. So here are these zones right here. All the zones are pretty much the same from last week. So this is EU. This is what we have active from last week. It's still technically active. It hit TP2, so I got stopped out in profit already at about 40 pips. However, it's still active. So if you guys still have this active right now, or you guys didn't close it before the weekend, it could still continue downwards. If we look at the K2 momentum indicator, we still have a sell momentum right here. So price broke below the zone right here. So technically it's probably going to drop even further down, like down to the actual zone down here. So this still looks good. I might even re-enter this once the market reopens. But this is exactly where, you know, your USD is looking right now. So this upper zone right here is going to be 1.17253, and this lower zone down here is going to be 1.1619. So that looks good for that. I'm going to zoom through these a little quicker because we don't have much time. GA right here is going to be, all right, I'm going to delete this zone up here. Looks like everything else is pretty much good. Plus there's a new zone down here. And then let's, all right, everything's good. So everything pretty much lines up from last week's zones. This upper zone right here is going to be 1.82892. And this lower zone down here is going to be 1.81718. We have a sell momentum right here, but it looks like price is coming up. So if price breaks above here and we get a buy signal, we can probably anticipate that to shoot on further up. So that's GA right there. Here's GCAD. Turn on this indicator. All right, so GCAD is a bit of a messy pair. You guys can see, you know, it moves similar to like the other pairs that we just talked about earlier, where they kind of just range most of the time, and they just get stuck within the zoned area. So the zones are the same from last week because obviously it didn't really move that much. And the upper zone right here is going to be 1.70476, and this lower zone down here is going to be 1.69902. So until price breaks below this zone or above this zone up here, there's probably not going to be any entries because you don't want to enter a sell and then it rejects right on you, or you enter a buy and then it rejects off this point as well. So for GCAD, we probably just wait until it actually makes a movement, like somewhere down here, before we actually analyze it further, or up here. So that's GCAD. I don't think many people trade GCAD anyways. It's a risky pair to trade. GCAD and GCHF, they're both risky pairs because they just range pretty much. They don't really move directional until they actually do. So you can see it ranges for a long time, shoots up, ranges, shoots up, shoots down, and then it literally just keeps ranging. So until price breaks up to this point up here or somewhere down here or even lower, then it's just going to be a risky pair to trade because obviously you don't want to get caught in all this like whipsaw movement over here. Well, let's turn on the version 2 indicator, hide this. Everything pretty much lines up as last week's zones. Like I mentioned for GCAD, it doesn't move very much. It's a ranging pair. So this upper zone right here is going to be 1.18339. And this lower zone down here is going to be 1.1803. But yeah, I'm not going to look at this until it breaks, you know, above this point or down here, because it's just going to keep ranging until it starts to move directional. All right, GJ right here. We got about 13 minutes, guys. So I'm going to zoom through this, but don't worry, I'm going to come back on maybe a little later tonight at 6 p.m. or 10 p.m. so that we can analyze this a little further. I know that, you know, we're going through this a little quickly, but this is just to give you guys the zone so you guys have an edge in the market, you know, as soon as the market opens. But I don't recommend entering any trades until the market is fully stabilized from the weekend. So this is a messy pair. Let's see, there's a lot of zones here. And there's a lot of zones that have disappeared since then. All right. Delete this one. All right, everything lines up from last week. Doesn't look like it moved too much. But yeah, right here, this upper zone is going to be 136.471. And this lower zone down here is going to be 135.917. So until price breaks above here or below here, then we're probably not going to take any trades for GJ. However, it does look like it's kind of bearish because it looks like all of the other JPY pairs we looked at look bearish as well. So you can see that they're, well, most of them, except for CAD JPY and CHF JPY. And that's why we want to wait until the market opens, because the thing is, we don't want to be biased in one direction and then price ends up being way up here or way up down here once market gets back into full swing. So just for now, I'm going to give you guys those two zoned areas so that you guys will have something to look forward to, you know, when price either breaks above it or price breaks below it. So that's GJ. Let's move on to GN right here. All right, so we have a ton of zones up here. I don't know why. Well, it looks like it kind of moved a lot from last week. So just taking these off over here because they're relevant. Let's see anything else down here. All right, cool. So same zones from last week. I'm gonna take these off. For GN right here, this upper zone is going to be 1.9577. This lower zone down here is going to be 1.9535. So until price, let's see what the momentum looks like. We have a sell momentum right here. So what we'd be waiting for is for price to break below this zone, and then we can take a short position right here. Probably not this wide, maybe just like 100 pips because this is kind of a big move. But yeah, so that looks like, the move for here. So once price breaks below here, we can take a sell and write it down further, but it doesn't look like it's going to move down there until, market opens. So market opens in 10 minutes, but we would still have to wait for the market to stabilize. Angel's asking, how long will it take for the market to stabilize after it opens? So I would probably wait 4 hours after the market opens. So the market opens at 2 p.m. my time. I probably wouldn't look for trades until maybe 6 p.m. But even at that point, the market's probably going to be very slow because it's just the Aussie and Asia session that are open. So in order for there to be like real volatility in the market, I wait until midnight, which is London open, because that's one of the biggest markets. So once that opens, you're going to start to see a lot more movement. So the market will probably stabilize a little bit by 6 p.m. or 10 p.m. my time, but you're not going to see any actual movement until midnight London open. And then you're going to see full movement tomorrow morning for New York session when it opens, because then all the markets are going to be completely open. So yeah, you'll see price stabilize within the next 4 to 5 hours, but then you probably won't see any actual movement until later tonight once London opens. So let's keep going down. Here's GU. Just want to make sure the zones are here. All right, so these zones look new. So I'm going to come and draw these right here. MDB said, is the spread will be high when the market opens? Yeah, the spread's going to be super high. And that's what I mean about the market stabilizing, because the spread is going to be crazy high until the market has completely stabilized, which would be in about maybe 4 to 6 hours after market reopen. And you'll see the spread bounce around. So you'll see the spread will get really wide, then it'll get tight, then it'll get wide again. And that's why you don't want to trade during that time, because you might get stopped out just because of the spread. And that's happened to a lot of people before. So I just want to make sure you guys are aware of that. It's just too risky unless you have like a really really wide stop loss. So here's GU right here. Oh, sorry. Let me take this off. This upper zone for GU is going to be 1.29302. This lower zone down here is going to be 1.28982. So those are the two zones to look out for. Looking at the momentum for GU, we have a sell momentum. So we would be waiting for price to close below probably this zone right here. And then we can take a short position to that next point down there for maybe 100 pips. And it would, it'd fall out perfectly right there. We enter a sell, goes right there, hits full TP, then rejects right off it. We can probably ride it back up. So that's GU right there. All right, guys, we got 7 minutes. So I'm going to zoom right through it really quick. NZD CAD right here. This is something that we still have active. It's technically still active right now. Let me check if the zones are the same. So we'll delete this one right here. Okay. So I'm going to connect these zones down here. Okay, so everything looks the same for the most part. So we still have a sell going on right here. I still anticipate this to come down further. So it still looks fine if you guys are still in this trade. However, I think most of us got stopped out in profit at TP2 for about 31 pips. When it came down right here, we all got stopped out and it shot right back up. But if you guys are still in it, it still looks fine. NZD-CHF right here. Let me go and check out these zones. Yeah, it looks like zones are pretty much in the same exact spot. So if you guys are still looking at NZD-CHF, this upper zone right here is going to be 0.60421. And this lower zone, we're just going to skip this zone right here. It's too close. The next zone down here is going to be 0.60255. And I think we have a sell bias for this as well. Actually, we have a buy bias. So we have a buy signal right here. We probably would be waiting for this to come above here. And then we can take a long position once it closes. But yeah, we're going to wait until the market opens before we really look at it like that. Here's NJ right here. Let me check out these zones. So it looks like, let me just redraw these because it's kind of messy. All right, cool. So we got these zones all lined up right here. Hide the indicator. Okay, this upper zone right here is going to be 69.808. This lower zone right here is going to be 69.474. So let's check out the momentum. Momentum is a buy right here. So we probably anticipate this to push up here before either rejecting off it and coming back down or continuing upwards. So we'd have to wait for, some sort of confirmation before we decide to take something like that. However, it's obviously going to have a buy bias at this specific time. All right, we got 5 minutes left. Let me finish these last pairs right here. All right, looks like the zones are pretty much the same from last week, and you didn't move very much. Momentum looks like it is coming up right here, similar with the other NZD pairs. So it looks like the NZD pairs are actually gaining in strength for this week. So, I mean, we'll have to wait and see. We wouldn't take a buy until price closes above this zone right here. Then maybe we take a long position at this point. And even at that point, it's kind of risky because it could reject off this point or it could reject off this point as well. So it's too risky of a trade. I personally wouldn't take it. But if you guys are looking at NZD USD, it does have a buy bias. However, it looks like it's rejecting off it. So if we get a sell signal, so we get a sell signal right here and it closes below, then I would probably just take a short position. But if we don't get that sell signal and it closes above here, then you might want to take a buy. However, the US dollar has been pretty strong all week, so we'll have to wait and see how that happens. I don't know if the Fed's going to say anything this week to affect it. They probably will, but we won't know for sure until it actually happens. So another pair. So that's NU. Here's NZD. Oh, sorry, UCAD. So for USD CAD right here, let's see if they line up. Yeah, so all the zones right here line up perfectly. They didn't really move that much last week, so take this off. This upper zone over here is going to be 1.32078, and this lower zone down here is going to be 1.31622. Check out the momentum indicator. We have a sell momentum right here, so technically this would be an active position from last week. If you guys are still looking at this, I don't think I called this trade because it was too close to this zone. Yeah, because it was too close to this area right here. It was only about 17 pips. So, the spread's 5 pips. So it's going to be 10 pips both ways. It'd be really hard for you to really make a profit off that. So I probably would have waited for this to close below this point and then maybe take a short position from down here. But technically, this would be an active sell right here. So if you guys are looking to trade UCAD, I would be looking at it as a sell for a sell bias. And also because price is trending downwards. So all things lead towards a sell. So if you guys are looking at UCAD, that's what it looks like. Like I mentioned, this upper zone right here is going to be 1.32078, and this lower zone right here is going to be 1.31617. All right, 2 more pairs, USD CHF and USD JPY, and then we'll take a break for a bit, guys, and I'll probably hop back on in a couple hours once the market's back in full swing. So here's USD CHF. Let's double check these zones. Looks like the zones are pretty much the same for the most part. Looks like it just moved over a little bit, but it's not a huge difference. Let's see down here. All right, cool, guys. So these are the zones right here. The upper zone right here is going to be 0.91626, and this lower zone down here is going to be 0.91452. We do have a buy bias right here. However, it's just consolidating. So you can see right here, price is just going sideways. We probably have to wait for this to break below here before we take an entry, or break above here to make an entry for a buy. So I'd sit tight on this right now. Market's about to open in about a minute, so just wait to see how that moves. However, you guys have the parameters right there. All right, last pair before we get off, guys. But like I mentioned, I'll be back on in a couple hours. So don't worry if we didn't cover anything that you guys wanted just yet. It wouldn't really matter because the market's barely opening and we have to wait for it to stabilize before we actually look for any specific moves this week. So I'm gonna turn on the K2SR indicator. You can see right here, there's no zone up there. Let me just redraw these zones because they're kind of messy. So you got that zone right there. That zone right there. That zone right there. These two zones right here. Another zone right there. One down here and one last one right down here. All right, perfect. So let me just hide this off the chart. All right, this upper zone right here is going to be at 105.474, and this lower zone right here is going to be 105.315. So the market just opened, guys. Like I mentioned, give it some time. Don't enter the trade right away because you don't want to get caught on the wrong side of the trade, because price can go in either direction at this point until the market has stabilized. Angel. So let's see. Angel said, how do we sign up for individual sessions and how? So Angel, if you have a subscription to the K² strategies, this trial right here, $50 for the first month, you'll have pretty much unlimited sessions with me. You just need to book your appointment in time because I handle 1 hour sessions per person, and it goes throughout the entire day. So I can work around your schedule. But yeah, in order to have a session with me, the reason why we require you to have access to the K² indicators is because we're going to have sessions where we use all of the K² indicators. So I'm going to be going over every strategy with you, pretty much any strategy that you like. So we can, pretty much give you all of the tools you need, and so that you can be 100% to apply the strategies on your own. And there's no way that we can cover that unless you have access to the indicators, because obviously I'm not going to be teaching you how to do this stuff from scratch, because doing this stuff from scratch is going to take you so much time and a lot of effort. That's the reason why we have the K² indicators, to make things a whole lot easier, where you can just redraw over these. But the more you practice using the indicators, these are just training your eyes to see what I see. So I pretty much created all these indicators from scratch with my own knowledge and my own logic. So basically all of this stuff I can do without the indicators. However, for you, I can't teach you what I'm looking at unless you have the indicators. So once you're able to, draw these zones, you do this enough times every week, every day, every month, you're going to start to see exactly what I'm looking at. Because obviously you can see right here, if you just look at this right here and you tie these with the SR indicator, you can see which zones are actually important. Like these here are they're way too high, so they're not important right now because price is way down here. However, these zones right here are important because they've been tested X amount of times in the past. But yeah, pretty much. Brazen said, please teach us how to make the indicator. Yeah, bro, I'm not going to do that. Well, I mean, this is my hard work where I've created these indicators. So if you want to create your own indicators, you're more than welcome to, but you're going to have your own knowledge to create these indicators. I didn't trade for 10 years to just give away the secret to you guys. But if you guys want these indicators, they're available to you guys. But yeah, Angel, if you sign up to the strategies, then you can set up a 1 hour session with me, and those are unlimited sessions. So literally we can go over a session every week if you want to, master the K² strategies. But yeah, guys, so that's it for now. I'm going to come back on maybe in a couple hours, probably around maybe 10 p.m. my time, which is in about 8 hours. So if you guys have any questions, I'll probably send out the link a little later and I can go into analysis a little deeper once the market has actually started moving. However, right now there's just no point because the market is just open. But yeah, guys, so you guys have the zones. If you guys want to go back and rewatch this, the link will be on the YouTube, and then you guys can go and pretty much go through each pair that I analyzed if you guys want to go and grab those specific parameters. But I'll catch you guys in a little bit. This will be live on YouTube in a little bit for replay, but I'll catch you guys in a couple hours. So thanks for showing up, guys, and I'll see you guys in a little